Oke, siap Menden, sudah bisa. Pas jam.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Language Study Center, Pattimura University first webinar. The topic of our webinar today is introducing alternative digital resources to teaching EFL and their pedagogical implications. Before we start, I would like to greet the Honorable Rector of Pattimura University, Professor Dr. M.J. Sapteno M. Hum, our keynote speaker from America, Dr. Shannon McCrocklin. Thank you very much for your willingness to take this opportunity to share with us. And also, I would like to greet Dr. Hendrik Maruanaya as one of the speakers. Thank you, Mr. Hendrik, for your willingness to share ideas for us. Sorry for the connection. Yeah. The Honorable Rector of Pattimura University, Professor Dr. M.J. Sapteno M. Hum, the Honorable Dr. Shannon McCrocklin from Southern Illinois University, America, as our keynote speaker for this morning webinar. I know that now it is 9 in US. Thank you. And also Dr. Hendrik Maruanaya. And very warm all participants for coming to our webinar today. Without further delay, I would like to take this opportunity to give a floor for Mr. Professor Dr. Sapteno as Director to deliver his opening remark.
Yeah.
Prof, your time.
Yeah. Thank you. Keynote speaker Dr. Shannon McCrocklin from Southern Illinois University of America and Dr. Maruanaya, Language Study Center as webinar organizer, distinguished all the participants of webinar series 1. A very good morning to all of you. Dr. Shannon, thank you for accepting our invitation and especially for your willingness to participate this webinar today as the keynote speaker. It's gives me great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome to my name and on behalf of Language Study Center of Pattimura University. How grateful we are the Language Study Center Pattimura University that this is an exceptional morning today and grateful chance for us to have you all in this webinar. Webinar on strategy of the modern teaching language in the digital era, which organized by Language Center of the Pattimura University, will be delivered in the 3 series. The series 1 will be delivered today on the topic introducing alternative digital resources to teaching English of foreign language and their pedagogical implication. This webinar aims to bring together academic, policymaker, practitioner, and other parties with interest in the language and teaching language at all levels from school and university. I do hope this topic is interesting for you and order to make important contribution to our own global language program and innovate teaching models, teaching strategy, and special introduction the alternative digital resources to teaching English as foreign language through this webinar series 1. We have to thank you, the keynote speaker, Dr. Shannon and Dr. Maruanaya, for your contribution, and moderator and all of you who have given your time to participate in this webinar. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to declare webinar series 1, Introduction Alternative Digital Resources to Teaching English of Foreign Language and their pedagogical implication, well and truly officially. Thank you. Good morning, all of you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. M.J. Capteno. And now we will begin our webinar. As our moderator. Mr. Eugene,
All right, thank you, Jenny.
Di sini suaranya putus-putus.
Can you all hear me? Or is it echoing? I just want to make sure. Okay, is it clear? All right, so good morning, everybody, and also good evening for Dr. McCrocklin from the US and also some other participants. I can see there's some from London and also other countries other than Indonesia. And it is also surprising that we have more participants coming from other provinces across Indonesia, such as from Java, Sulawesi, Papua, and of course, Maluku. And welcome to today's webinar, which is about introducing alternative digital resources to teaching English as a foreign language and their pedagogical implications. And I would like to welcome everybody. My name is Eugene Mainake, and I will be serving as a moderator for today's webinar. But before we get to the presentation, I would like to kindly remind you of a few things that you need to pay out yourself when the speaker is presenting, so there won't be any disturbing noise for both the speakers and the audience. And then the second one, try not to have anything running, videos, anything. And then the third one, we recommend you to put on a headphone to get a better quality audio and just to hear better. And then the fourth one, during the webinar, you will need to be able to use the chat box down there to say hi or type any comment to one another. And if you have any questions, please type your questions in the Q&A box down there on your screen. But please make sure that you write down your name and your affiliation and to which speaker you address your questions. All right, so the presenter will try to answer your questions right away after the presentation, but we will also be keeping some of the questions to the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And then, yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. Today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Shannon McCrocklin, a very special guest from the US, and also our own Dr. Hendrik Maruanaya from Pattimura University. I would like to tell you a little bit about our keynote speakers for today. So Dr. Shannon McCrocklin is an assistant professor at the Linguistic Department of Southern Illinois University. and she earned her PhD in Applied Linguistics and Technology from Iowa State University. And her research interests include technology in language learning and teaching, acquisition of second language phonology, learner autonomy, identity and anxiety, and also pronunciation instruction. And today she will be talking about assembling your call toolbox. And next we have also a very distinguished speaker from Pattimura University, Dr. Hendrik Maruanaya. He is a faculty member or a lecturer at English Education Study Program, Pattimura University, and he earned his doctoral degree from State University of Malang in East Java, Indonesia, and his research focused on technology for language learning, material development, language skills, and language pedagogy. All right. And today he will also be talking about mobile phone and social media ideas for facilitating English as a foreign language teaching and learning. All right, due to the current situation, most of you as teachers have to teach remotely, but are still encountering challenges to deliver your materials effectively to students. And then you may wonder what tools or program to use and how to better implement such programs in your own context. That's why the speaker today will be sharing some useful tips that you can take into account in designing and teaching your lessons. So with that, you will be able to teach English amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. So I ask you to give your full attention and help me in welcoming our first speaker, Dr. McCrocklin from SIU. So Dr. McCrocklin, time is yours.
All right, thank you. Now, can all of you see my screen? Yes? Okay. Are you, sorry. Eugenie, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you everyone. I am honored to be here today, and I was honored to be thought of as a potential speaker for this webinar. So I wanted to start today by talking about what I'm going to try to accomplish in the next hour. Part of what I want to talk about is what makes a tool useful, and then also look at a variety of call tools and talk about what some of them can do. I think that given the fact that we're facing a fairly unprecedented situation, not only are we dealing with a pandemic, but now this extra expectation that education will move fully online, that it's important to think about the resources that we have available and how we can best implement them in class. I was a little overwhelmed when I tried to prepare this presentation though, because there's tons of resources. And so while struggling to figure out what I was going to share with you, I figured out that that's probably a lot of what you will be struggling with as well. Sifting through all the resources that are available to choose what best work for your class. So, to help you sift through a variety of tools, and I hope that at least one of the tools will be something that you can put in your own call toolbox. All right, I want to start off by talking about what makes a tool useful. And I have pictures of, real hands-on tools here. And this has actually become a much more realistic metaphor for me in this last summer, because I have been working on my house and renovating it. And at first, when I started to do that with my husband, he had all these tools, and I never knew what most of them did. Some of them ended up being incredibly useful. But of course, there's the problem that, if what you really need is a wrench, a hammer is not going to do it for you. So I want to take a look at the rubrics that have been put forward by Jameson and Chappell. Chappell's famous for going through some of the things that we have learned about second language acquisition and turning those into guides for what we can expect out of a good call tool. The first thing that they point out is learner fit. This means that the learner should be engaged in language that is appropriate for them. And that means it would match their age, their language background, and their proficiency. They should also be paying attention for meaning. So in terms of meaning focus, we're hoping that learners' attention will be regularly directed to meaning and not just forms. So not just grammar, not just pronunciation, but they're thinking about ways of using language communicatively. And although the majority of the time should be a meaning focus, that doesn't mean that we want to ignore the language learning potential. So we do want to look for tools at times that will supplement and draw our learners' attentions to pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. We also want to be looking for authenticity. Now here, authenticity means that the activity should be relevant in the real world. So they should be things that your learners will actually use in their day-to-day lives, hopefully. But also authenticity talks about the ways that we often create learner language in textbooks that is not quite authentic. It's not what people would actually say. So we want to think about the ways that people actually communicate and try to provide the most authentic models. We also want to make sure that our call tool provides a positive impact. Now, in terms of positive impact, what we're thinking about here is that all call tools have a certain amount of time that you have to put into them. So if you're going to introduce a tool to your students, you're probably going to have to show them how it works. And there's going to be time where they have to practice with the tool just to figure out how it works. The idea of positive impact is that once you take into account all the time you've lost getting students started, is the tool still worth it? And then what are those positive impacts? The final one is practicality. Practicality here means that any of the resources that you choose should be readily available and easy to access. And that can include support. So if there's a call line or something in case you need help with a resource. I mentioned that I want to take you through quite a few different tools. I'm going to divide them into tools for receptive skills versus tools for productive skills. In terms of receptive skills, some of the things that I'm specifically looking for when I look for tools are ones that can fit somewhere in this process of either listening or reading. Often when we talk about receptive skills, we talk about a phase of preparation, and then a phase of during the reading or listening, and then a post-extension. In the pre-preparation phase, this might be something like teaching vocab that's going to show up in the listening or reading passage. It could also mean that you give students the title of a talk and you have them guess what the content will be. It could also be something like a discussion about a related topic. Once you've prepared students, then we're ready to start listening and reading. But this doesn't mean just one listen or read. Instead, it can mean 2 times or 3 times, however many times your learners need. The idea here is that you want them to listen or read for big ideas first, and then get increasingly into the finer details as they continue to work with the passage. Once they've understood the passage, then we're looking at post-extension activities. This could be something like, if they listen to a song, maybe they write the next verse or chapter. If they read an argumentative essay, perhaps they write a response to the author. The idea here is we want them to keep using that knowledge, keep using that language that they've been working with, and now moving on, often into a productive skill. Most of the tools I'm going to show you today are tools that are useful in the during phase. A few notes about what's particularly useful about call during that during listening and reading phase is that call can be used to give students greater control over their learning. This includes allowing them access to a variety of speakers, maybe not just the limited number of people that might be around them speaking English, but now they have access to the whole world as potential people they can listen to. It also can allow students to do things like slow down a recording if they're struggling to understand it. Finally, it might include something like activating types of glosses that are present on readings. We know that students are more engaged when learning material is interactive or presented with multimedia resources, and we do know that CALL can improve receptive comprehension. So to get started, we're going to look at some reading resources. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about catching all of these. I do have a handout that I will make sure to share somewhere near the end of my presentation. I have a link for it that I can share in the chat. So don't panic about noting down everything about these resources. The handout will have links so that you can explore all of these later. But I'm going to show you for reading Poplet, Scribble, and the Longman Vocabulary Checker, which is more of a teacher resource, really. So here is a Poplet. Poplet is a website that facilitates mind mapping and brainstorming. They call those little white content bubbles the popples. And what you can do is inside each popple, you can insert text, images, you can include videos, and you can even hand draw if you're a skilled artist. It's a bit tricky. Because this is a website, multiple students can actually access it at the same time. And so I chose this one here. This is a publicly available Poplet, but it was made by a group of students. So when you look at this screen, you'll probably see that there are some different colors going on. There are the red Poplets, the pink, the green Poplets. Each one of those were put in by a different student. So you can work collaboratively to make sense of a larger text or a larger listening passage. We know that mind maps can help students break down complex readings visually. So for me, the pros for this one, you can provide a meaning focus, and it's very practical and easy to use. To get started making your own Poplet, you just double click your board and it puts a popple down. One of the downsides of Poplet is that it only provides one board for free. So you can make one Poplet. If you want to make more than those, you will need to buy a paid for account. There are similar free options such as MindMeister though, if you're interested. Okay. The next tool I want to take a look at is Scribble. Scribble is a website and a Chrome extension that allows you to save, comment on, and annotate readings. This can help make reading more interactive. So what you see here is actually my Scribble library. It's not very interesting. It's just readings that I've put up there for various reasons, mostly for classes that I'm teaching. But we're going to take a look at the very first document that talks about Scribble that I posted up there as a PDF. So this is a document in Scribble. What you can do with it is highlight and comment throughout the document. So up here you can see this is the highlighter. I've highlighted in pink. I've also put a comment on here in yellow. You can actually color code the comments so that you can track different types of comments throughout. Annotation can help students keep track of main ideas in the reading, but also their thoughts and reactions to reading. It can be an easy way to mark vocab that they want to look up or learn. And really, it just helps them engage with the text more actively, which can help them with the next stages, which might be interpreting the text or analyzing the text. One thing that might be of interest to you as teachers is that you can create a teacher account that's linked to all of your student accounts. And you can look at their libraries, and you can also watch them annotate a reading in real time. So if you've ever been curious about how your students read, you can actually kind of watch them do it at the time that they're working through a reading. So the reasons I wanted to show you this one, the pros of this one, you can bring in authentic text. You can bring in almost anything in a PDF form. And even if it doesn't know exactly where the text is, you can still use the highlighting and commenting functions. And then it helps students figure out the meaning of reading. So it definitely has a meaning focus. Now, this third tool is perhaps less something that you would show to students and more something that I thought might be useful for you as you're trying to find materials online for your students. This is the Longman Vocabulary Checker. If you know much about the Longman dictionaries, they'd like to track word frequency and how frequently words are used. And so they have this tool that you can actually use for free. And this vocabulary checker allows you to, you see this box here, you copy a text that you're interested in, that you think students might be able to read, and then you can check it. So you can check it for lower frequency words, mid frequency words, or high frequency words. Notice that the high frequency words are actually the top 3,000 most commonly used words. We know that beginners need about 2,000 words to be able to handle basic conversations. So we're dealing with really a fairly large vocabulary, even in those high frequency words. For advanced learners, you'll also notice there's the academic word list. So you can see the ways that certain texts might prepare them to read academic texts. So I pasted in a little thing that I found from the Encyclopedia Britannica. And so that's this in the results over here. And it highlights all the words that were in the list that I chose. So I asked it to look for high frequency words. So imagine I'm looking for beginners. Well, it turns out that 81.1% of the words are in that high frequency list. It might be good for some beginners, not maybe complete beginners, but I have to be a little concerned because one of the things that we know about reading and vocabulary learning is that we want readers to really know 90 to 95% of the words in a text so that they can focus on learning that small 5 to 10% more. If there's too many words that they don't know, it becomes a task that's very frustrating and they can't focus as much on the new words that they're learning. I included this because it has the pros that it can facilitate the use of authentic text while helping you manage issues of learner fit, because you can use this feedback to adapt readings for your learners. Okay, within receptive skills though, we also have listening. So I want to show you 3 different resources for listening. The 3 that I'm going to show you are Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab, Podcasts in English, and Audacity, which is a program. Notably, when I think of listening things, listening resources that are online, I tend to think of things that provide listening recordings. And so I did include 2 of those examples. So the first 2 examples are fairly similar. Let's take a look at the first one. This is Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab. This has actually been online since 1998. But recently they updated it, making the appearance and navigation easier. So if you ever used it before and you know how hard it was to kind of stay on the web page, they fixed a lot of those problems. This website breaks down listening activities to 3 levels. So you've got easy and a medium and a difficult, which makes it great for learner fit because you can get recordings right at your student's level. There is a wide variety of topics and voices, although there is perhaps a lack of authenticity because these have been created for ESL learners. One of the nice things about this is for each listening exercise, they include comprehension questions, but they also, so this is kind of the during listening, I suppose, but they also have pre-listening where it teaches words or idioms that they need, and this website has post-listening ideas. So it'll have some topics for conversation starters. It also has information for students to look up online to kind of keep with that topic even if they're working alone. The other resource that I mentioned was Podcasts in English. This is very similar. It has 3 basic levels plus business English. You can access most of the previous recordings and then they post ongoing recordings. So whenever they post one, those become available as well. Most of the podcasts have short videos that go with them. So you get both kind of just the listening and the video aspects. And students can actually access some support. So here is one of the first recordings in level 1. And you see not only the audio file, which can be downloaded, so it doesn't have to be live streamed, but also a transcript, which can help students figure out what they're hearing. Now, you may also notice the worksheet and answers and the vocabulary task. Most of those are actually a pay-for option, so you may not be able to access most of those, but a lot of the audio recordings and transcripts are available for free. The final resource for listening that I wanted to show you is Audacity. So Audacity is a program that you can download for free. It allows you to do multi-track recording and editing. You can use it on Windows, Macs, and Linux. You can actually import a wide variety of sound files into it. So you could do WAV files, MP2s, MP3s. Actually, the bigger problem is when you want to do something with the file you've been working on, because Audacity has to then encode it into a usable form. So if you're going to use this with students, probably the biggest problem is going to get them to export the file to a WAV file or an MP3. But once you get them doing that, it's pretty easy to use. This is the basic look of Audacity. You have the option to record, stop, pause, move to the end, move to the beginning, and so on. There are some parts of this tool that I absolutely love, and that's the reason that I'm showing it to you. Not only is this respected in the music industry as a good free option, it's pretty well respected in the field of linguistics as well. It has a lot of functions that you can use to improve or facilitate different types of activities. One of my favorite tools is noise removal. It's an effect that you can apply. So let's say that you made a recording for your students and there's a fan in the background and it's buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. Well, what this program can actually do is you can take a sample of the fan noise and then remove it from the whole recording so that it cleans it up. It makes it sound so much more professional. It also makes it less distracting. Another tool that I really love within this is the speed alteration. So it's another effect that you can apply. You can change the speed, and if you change it as a percentage of the speed, then it's going to affect the pitch, but then you can also change the pitch to the same percentage and slow a recording down. So any recording you can find, you can slow it down with this program. The final one that I wanted that this program can do is overdub. What overdub actually allows you to do is it plays the audio recording while it records you doing whatever it is that you're saying. So what you can use this for is like listen and response types of activities, or even listen and repeat. You can record a word or a question, leave a pause, and then when the student uses it with overdub, they will hear what you say and have a space to respond. They can save that file and send it right back to you. So those are kind of my favorites for Audacity. It's a free program, as I mentioned, and it gives you a lot of options. Obviously, it could also be used for speaking activities. Let's talk about productive skills a bit. You see that there's kind of a sense of process with the productive skills too. It might take a slightly different form though. In the preparation phase now, you might have things like lessons in grammar, still might have some of the vocabulary that you need, but you also might have like task planning activities, maybe jotting down some notes for a speech or an outline, or working out with a partner what they might want to say in a task. Once they've prepared for the task, the during task is the actual writing or speaking. Of course, you could use Audacity for speaking. Writing, we have tons of text editors like Word that make producing written text easy. But what's really key, I think, for productive skills is this element that's added in there, which is the feedback. When you're dealing with productive skills, students need feedback so that they can improve. And so that's what that last stage ends up being over here in the post stage. Instead of an extended activity, often with productive skills, we're dealing with revision. So I'm going to be showing you a few different types of tools that you can use during the speaking or writing activity, and some tools that will provide feedback. We know that CALL can provide opportunities for endless experimentation with language. So as long as your student has power to a computer, which I know can be tricky sometimes, but if they have power to a computer or access to the internet, they can keep practicing over and over and over again. They're not dependent on a teacher or a listener to constantly be providing that feedback. And that giving that feedback facilitates learner autonomy, so they feel like they have more power and more choice in their practice, and can lessen the instructor burden. I know that if you have really large classes, it can be very hard to give all of your students feedback. So one of the things that I like to find are tools that can help provide some of that feedback to save some time. So for writing, we're going to look at 3 types of tools. We're going to look at Grammarly, My Storybook, and EduFlow. And then since I didn't really want to create a whole section for vocab, I'm giving you one resource that's like a vocab bonus, which is Quizlet. This is the website for Grammarly, but what Grammarly really is an extension for Chrome. So you'll see here, it says add to Chrome, it's free. Once you add this extension to Chrome, it starts looking through all the things that you do online. So now that I have it on my computer, it will even check like my Facebook posts. It advertises that it can catch over 250 different grammatical mistakes. It also examines vocabulary to provide gauges for different measures such as clarity, engagement, and delivery. So over here, this is a demo document. I didn't put this one up. It's the one they use to show off their abilities. You can see that it underlines areas of concern, and that on the right-hand side, you get a rating of how many alerts you have within the document. You also have information about what they think is wrong, but also the flexibility to add certain things to your personal dictionary if you know that you've spelled a word correctly. I think that this is really wonderful it's very practical, very easy to use. And it also provides a lot of language-focused instruction, providing wonderful feedback on writing, and this can lessen the burden on teachers. It's not going to get everything right, and it certainly isn't going to be able to tell students about their content and organization, but if it can catch a lot of the misspellings, grammar issues, and punctuation issues, that has saved a lot of time that you can maybe then use to provide feedback on the content organization. Okay. This one is my storybook, and what I want to talk about what I want to show with this one is the ability to kind of self-publish, which can make the task feel a bit more authentic. This is a free website. You can create books with multiple pages. You can easily add different characters. You can draw on the pages. You can add text to the pages and background scenes. So I created a page so you can see it. One of the things that I think is a con of this resource, though, is that there are maybe potentially issues in learner fit if students are older. If you're working with adults, this might look a little childish, but if they're willing to work with it, it's very easy to use. If you are working with older students that you think this might not feel sophisticated enough for them, you might want to check out a similar resource that's called Storybird. One thing that I did want to point out is that this website does make it easy for you to print your books. It comes with a fee, but you can get a printable PDF for about $5 right now, or if you want to keep it completely free, you can share them online. So one student could share with their classmates or with family members once they've created something. One other note, you can see the other pages I would be able to click on and continue editing to build my book. Okay, The last writing one that I want to talk about is EduFlow. What EduFlow tries to do is provide a resource for teachers where you can upload materials and activities, and then they all flow together in hopefully some form of scaffolded lesson. Now, what I really like about EduFlow is the peer review. So peer review is a collaborative activity, right, where students read and then critique and provide feedback to their peers' writing. Peer review is actually really useful for contributing to learner autonomy because it shifts some of that dependence off of teachers and onto peers, and then increasingly onto themselves. It can also provide opportunities to negotiate meaning and can raise awareness about students' strengths and weaknesses. Peer review is a major aspect in taking a process-oriented approach to writing, and research shows that when students do provide feedback, somewhere between 50 to 74% of comments tend to lead to valid revisions, and only a very small number, maybe 7%, and this is taking it from Villamil and Guerrero in 1998, only 7% in their study of the pieces of feedback led to false repairs or bad revisions. What you can do with EduFlow is makes it very easy for students to submit their work. Then, and only after they've submitted their work can they review the work that's been done by their designed for language learning. It was actually designed by a high schooler who was trying to study French. What is really useful about Quizlet is it creates packs of cards that you can study. I looked up how many cards they have on there, and I found a statistic that as of February in 2019, there were over 300 million user-generated sets on the website. So there's tons of material already there. And if you can't find what you want, either you or your students can actually make it. So Pro Learner Fit, because you can customize all of the decks. And it has a fair amount of language learning potential because you're focusing so much on vocab. That does mean as a con though, that you're drilling some of the words, so it can be a little less meaning focused with a lot of the words taken out of context. I did want to show you a card. This is an example of one that's trying to teach the word enormous or huge. Note that there's a picture to display the item, and you can also put up audio recordings so that students can actually hear the words. One of my favorite Quizlet though is once you have these decks, you can also use them to play games. So there are matching games where you have to match like the back of a card to the front of a card. There's spelling races, and all of these fun activities can be useful for learning new vocabulary. For speaking, I wanted to show you 3 different types of resources: VoiceThread, Conversation Exchange, and Voki. VoiceThread is a little hard to capture. The idea of this one is that it's a platform where you can upload images, documents, PowerPoints, videos, and what it does is it puts all of it automatically into a thread of a presentation. Once you have uploaded something, you can actually record audio or video on top of it. It's very easy once you've got your slide here, and you can see I posted up a PowerPoint slide. This is actually for one of my grad classes in Call where we're playing with these technologies. And I put this PowerPoint slide up, and then I can voice record or video record something on top of it that will automatically play when you play the slide. What's also nice about VoiceThread is you can share it with other people though, and they can actually leave comments as well. So you'll see on here underneath my little picture that says that I've left a comment on it is my student. So I have a student that has left a comment on this slide, and I can listen to or watch their response. This can be really useful for a listen and respond type of activity. And you can even make student comments private so that they're locked and other students can't see them. So if you had something that maybe had a correct answer and you didn't want students to all see the answer from the first student who answers, you can have them make their comment private so that every student has to answer the new question. What I like about this one is makes it very easy to create a presentation that has some movie-like qualities. And although navigation can be a bit tricky at the beginning to get used to, once you've created a thread, the navigation and making your voice start is quite simple. All right, the next one is conversation exchange. I debated whether to share this one because when you look at the beginning of the screen, I think it's a little scary. It's saying, practice your second language by meeting up with a native in your area for free. I don't know about you, but the idea of sending my students to just meet absolute strangers is kind of terrifying because I would feel responsible for their safety. So don't worry, you don't have to just make them meet strangers. If you start to look down lower on the page, you'll see that there's this option to do pen pals, and you can also match with people who want to do Skype phone calls or Google Hangout phone calls. So that's a lot safer, and I think that's a bit of a better option. There's tons of meaning focus. They get to chat with people about whatever what they want to, and the best way to learn a language is to use it. So this one is a wonderful option. This site is actually free. All it does is match you with someone that wants to learn language with you or practice language with you. The final speaking tool is Voki. Voki is a website that helps you make talking avatars. So when students are speaking, we know that they feel a lot of anxiety. It can be very threatening to their ego. So if they can record behind avatars, they might experience less anxiety. So Voki has a wide range of characters. Students can actually make their character look a bit like them through changing the clothes. You can see this option over here, the little shirt and baseball cap, or the colors of like the hair and the eyes and the lips. But there's also characters that are animals or historical figures, and it allows you a lot of flexibility. It is important to note that a lot of the characters are pay-for options. So the reason you're seeing this lovely lady here is she's free. So this is one of the free ones that you can do. But what I really want to point out on this one is that you can enter text and it will actually synthesize speech from the text that your student enters. So one of the things I like to do with students is if they're not sure how to say something, they can type it out first and they can actually listen to it, and then they can record it themselves. What they end up with in the end is an avatar that the eyes will move, the lips will move when she's speaking, and then it will play whatever is recorded. They can share this. It makes it easy to share on things like Facebook, but they can also save it to their computer. I didn't want to leave you without any resources for pronunciation and grammar, so I'm going to try to show you a few of those really quickly. Youglish, Google Voice Typing, ESL Grammar, and Perfect English Grammar. So Youglish is a website that searches through YouTube videos. So you enter a search term, you choose the accent you want to hear, and it brings up videos from YouTube that have that word. Here you'll see that there were 53,408 videos that have the word English in them. That was the word I searched for. You can search for anything. You can also search for phrases. What it does is it sets up the student to start watching the video just moments before they say the word. So you get to hear the word in context, what's before and after it. And as soon as you've heard the word, you can actually hit the next and watch another YouTube video that has the word, and next, however many times a student wants. This is great for a couple things. First, for high variability training. The research shows that exposing learners to more types of voices actually helps increase their listening ability. So we like that. It's also great for learning to identify words with real-world reduction. So function words like prepositions, determiners, they tend to be de-stressed and not pronounced fully. And so you can hear them in context in these videos and learn what they really sound like. This is perhaps my favorite tool. This is Google Voice Typing. This is what I actually do most of my research with, so I love it. Voice typing is an automatic speech recognition tool that allows you to dictate into documents, such as this one here in Drive. If you've ever done like Google voice searching on your phone, it's the same API. And when you're dealing with automatic speech recognition, once you turn it on, and you can see here, you would select voice typing under tools, a little microphone would show up. And when you turn on that microphone, anything you say, it's going to try to write down. Morose in 2018 showed that students felt that that transcript, what the computer thought they said, was helpful because it provided a sense of human intelligibility. And my own research is showing that it does seem like Google is now correlated with human intelligibility. So I encourage you to explore this tool. In terms of grammar, most of the resources offer lessons and quizzes. So I'm showing you one website that's mostly giving lessons, and one that mostly gives quizzes. ESLgrammar.org mostly gives lessons. Every lesson will start with an infographic, and then you'll have a written description of the rules and examples. And there might actually be lots of infographics. Some of the lessons have quizzes, but not all. If you're interested in ESL quizzes though, you might prefer Perfect English Grammar. Now, on this website, if you go to courses, you have to pay for things, but all of the explanations and exercises are free. Here is an example exercise. And so this one's trying to put things into past tense. What I really like about this one is it's really for formative feedback. Students can type an answer and check it as many times as they want. And if they get frustrated, so on number 3, I just couldn't get that past tense of speak, I asked it to show, and you can get the answer. So it's wonderful for students trying to learn to get better with grammar aspects. Okay, and the last things I'm going to show you is some ideas for managing classes. Now, if you are working with a university or a school that already has a learning management site, these might not be super useful. Learning management sites like Blackboard, Moodle, Canvas, Desire to Learn are widely used in education because they help keep kind of everything together. You can share materials with students, make quizzes, maybe automatically graded quizzes, and you can keep a grade book, you can collect assignments through it. So they're very useful. There are 2 that I want to show you that are completely free. So if your school doesn't have one, you can use these. This is Edmodo. Edmodo tried to base itself visually off of old school Facebook. So it has that landing dashboard where all of the announcements and things that are coming up in most recent things all show up on the first page. One of the main pros of this one is it's easy to use, and it pulls all of the announcements for multiple classes onto a single dashboard. The student can visit your class, but they can also have a main dashboard that pulls from all of their classes. The con is it's fairly limited. I pulled up how to make a quiz. You can make quizzes, you can collect assignments, and you can post discussions. That's most of what Edmodo will allow you to do. For the most part, Google Classrooms is fairly similar. You can create quizzes, collect assignments, and share materials and post discussion questions. So I've showed the options that you can make. One of the big advantages of using Google Classroom, though, is that you can merge it with your Google accounts, and so you can easily integrate Google Documents. You can have it merge with Google Calendar, which makes it a little easier on you. Teachers can also return work with not only grades, but also written comments. And this is probably one of my favorite things, for free. It enables an originality report for up to 3 assignments. So if you want to check if your students have plagiarized work, you can do that through this resource. A few things that I'm not actually going to take you through, but I hope you will take a look at in my handout, which I will show in a moment. There are wonderful content sources out there for you, like BBC Learning English, Breaking News English, Voice of America Learning English, and all of these take news articles and adapt them for your learners. A lot of them have lessons and helpful study materials. So these are wonderful resources. I also included TED Talks, because even though that wasn't meant for learners, they have speakers with wonderful oratory styles. They offer transcripts, and you can slow down the recordings, which makes them wonderful for learners. In closing, I know that this presentation had the potential to be a little overwhelming because I introduced a ton of resources. As I mentioned, I am going to share with you this handout I'm showing as a picture. I'm hoping now that you found all of, your wrenches, your hammers, and your saws, and now you're ready to renovate your classes, or at least one call tool at the very least. As you explore the variety of resources available and find dependable and useful resources, my goal is that I've helped you find something that you can start building your own toolbox of resources to meet your students' learning needs. Thank you so much. I think we have some time for questions. Maybe.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. McCrocklin, for such an enticing and insightful presentation. I hope the teachers can take benefit of it. But so far, we have only 2 questions coming in.
Okay.
About 2 questions for you. So the first one is from Hanung Triyoko. Which of the free educational apps available online do you suggest teachers may use to allow students themselves practice English conversation with their schoolmates, but online? Although teachers can use WhatsApp for that, but they cannot record the video call for assessing students' performance. So which of?
Yes, so of the ones that I would probably try to get my students to use, I would probably go with Zoom. They have free accounts. You can have 40-minute conversations, and it makes recording very simple. So that would probably be the one I would go with.
All right. So I hope that answers Hanung's questions. And then the second one is about Audacity. It's from Achir. I don't know the name. Is it correct? I'm sorry. Achir asked about Audacity. Is Audacity similar to Cool Edit? Is it free? So this person actually would like you to share your materials. So yeah.
I will. I promise I will share my materials. But yes, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
But Audacity, it is free. I don't know much about Cool Edit, so I'm not able to make a ton of comparisons. But it does have a lot of different resources that make it similar to some pay-for audio editors. So it is a good option to explore, but if you have one you like already, you might not want to change.
All right. Oh, we have one more coming in. So it's from Nurti Rahayu. She's teaching business English class, so she would like you to suggest her some free educational apps that she can use.
Oh, for teaching at university, and that's all the information I get?
Yes.
Oh no, this is tough because it could be almost anything. But in terms of apps, I do think you're probably going to like the next talk. I try to avoid a lot of apps because I think Dr. Maruanaya is going to talk about a few different things for mobile learning, which would include apps. I certainly don't want to step on his toes, but I would probably look at some of the free apps like Duolingo. for providing some practice if I had students that needed something kind of with a mobile app. But maybe let's come back to that after Dr. Maranaya's talk, because if you don't feel like you have enough resources at that point, we can definitely add more probably.
All right. So there's one more, just last minute before we move to Dr. Maruanaya's. I hope he's preparing. He's getting ready. So this is from Manchester Kawile. He mentioned that he's interested in using VoiceThread. So would you mind describing clearly about VoiceThread, and can teachers make video with it? Do teachers need some procedures for having a video before posting to their students?
Okay, so for VoiceThread, you can either upload videos or you can record video comments. If you do video comments, it takes it actually from your webcam, but it's super easy to use. When you go in there, you just say that you want to start a thread, and whatever materials you want to record over, you go ahead and upload, and it makes each one of those a different slide in your presentation. And you can actually set it to automatically play each next slide, so it'll work through all of your slides. And then it's once you've uploaded the different things, and you can upload pretty much anything, then you can record on top of it. And if you record comments on top of it, that'll probably be coming mostly from your webcam. So I hope I answered your question.
All right. Okay, we still have more questions coming in. I think we need to hold on for a second because we move to our second keynote speaker. So yeah, without further ado, let's turn over the floor to Dr. Maruanaya. Thank you, Dr. McCrocklin.
Thank you.
Dr. Maruanaya, time is yours. Hen, please unmute yourself, your audio.
Okay, thank you very much, Ejen. Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, Pa.
Okay, is it clear?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Ejen. Good morning or good afternoon for those in Ambon, and morning for those who live in Java, teachers, university students, my colleagues who are attending this web seminar from home. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My presentation today is about using mobile phones and social media. I'm going to provide some ideas to facilitate EFL teaching and learning. So we are still in these situations, COVID-19 pandemic, and everyone is still stay and work from home. Excuse me. Wait. Okay, moderator, can you see my slide presentations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so we are still in the situation, COVID-19 pandemic, everyone is still stay and work from home, teaching and learning are delivering from home to students. So school have already started. Last semester, I believe that it creates a lot of confusion for the school as well as for the teachers, as we are all not ready. Most teachers have no clue on how to create and deliver learning activities online, as they have no previous experience. So I saw last semester, I saw many teachers rely heavily on phones and social media platforms to sustain and manage their teaching and learning with the students. So as we know that mobile phones and social media become an integral part of everyday life, we are all familiar with using and operating these tools. So in these presentations, I would like to revisit. So it's just a kind of revisiting mobile phone or smartphone and social media platform to look at how they can be used to support EFL teaching and learning. So there are some tools, and we will look at how we can use that tool to solve a problem. So I love what Shannon already mentioned. When it comes to selecting tools, it is very important for us to think about that this tool is fit to the learner, it is meaning focused, it is authentic, and the last one I love very much is about practicality when it comes to selecting the tools. So now I'm going to talk about mobile phones and how we can use the tools that are available on in our mobile phone to support learning. But before starting, let's do a little bit reflection for a while by going to menti.com. Everyone, go to menti.com, and I provide the code. Just type menti.com, use your browser, type menti.com, and the code is 65240. This is just a little bit for us to reflect before go further to talk about mobile phone. Okay. See. Okay, it seems that some already get there. Which feature of mobile phone do you frequently use with your students? So we have already like 17, 18 participants already provide their. Okay. Right. Okay. So it seems like we are all use text messaging, camera, video, audio recordings, and video is about the same level. That's pretty good. Oh, okay, we have only two. Basically, there are two questions. Oh, we have four. Get there. Okay, and another question is, which social media platforms do you frequently use with your students? Okay, that's fine for a while. It seems like we are all mainly use text messaging to maintain communication or interaction with the student. Some also use camera and video recording. So this is going to be my topic that I'm going to talk about now. Okay. Okay, my presentation this afternoon or this morning is about mobile phones. So we are going to look at some tools that probably can help us to solve the problem. So the tools that we have on mobile phone, first is about voice memo recorder, text messaging, mobile phone memory. That is a very important one that we need to take into account when it comes to teaching and learning online, especially when we are rely on using mobile phones. Camera and video, and I'm also going to look at some social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp. Some people consider WhatsApp as a social media platform. So these are about my topic that I'm going to share with you all. Okay, let's start from voice memo recorder here. So what can we do, or what can we do with this tool? So I like what Shannon said, that it should be practicality, fit the learner, and so on. So let's just look at the reading. Shannon already provides information for us about productive and receptive skill. Now we start from receptive skill on how we can use that tool for example, here is reading. So as we know that teachers in the classrooms setting like to give student the text and have the student to read the text. But before the student read the text, teachers model the text with the student. It's like teacher start reading the text as a model to student. Now when we are in online learning, such things may not possible occur as we are normally do in the classroom. However, voice memo recorder up here help teacher to keep doing, their routine or do their job as they normally do in the classroom. So we use voice memo recorder here is that when teacher have the text, they read the text, they record the text. And good thing is that they can use WhatsApp platform to send the text and the recorder, the voice to the student to listen to how they read the text. So that is what normally the teacher do. So let's just have listen to this one that the teacher tried to record the text. This is the text from the textbook Bahasa Inggris SMA edisi. This is a new revision, 2017. So let's just have a look and listen to this when you use memo recorder.
Tanjung Puting National Park. Tanjung Puting National Park is an internationally famous ecotourism destination which is located in the southwest of central Kalimantan Peninsula.
So, excuse me, is something went wrong? Yes. Okay, so that is when teacher can use this voice memo to record the reading and send it to student as a model. And student can do the same things as we normally do in the classroom. Like the teacher also want to know whether the student can read well to assess their reading ability, aside from giving them comprehension questions to check their understanding of the text. Teachers also like to check whether the student can read in English well, produce, pronouncing the word, etc. So student can also do the same things by recording, use their voice memo record to record the voice and send it to teacher for assessment, as at least it's going to be an evidence for the teacher. Suppose that the teachers are not confident with their voice, because some teachers, they are not so really confident to record their voice and send it to student. Natural Reader, this is an online tool, can help the teachers to record their voice. So in Natural Reader here, the teachers can copy paste the text and the native speaker voice will read the text to the teacher. And then the teacher only use the voice memo recorder from the mobile phone to record that voice. This is an example.
National Park. Tanjung Puting National Park is an internationally famous ecotourism destination, which is located in the southwest of central Kalimantan Peninsula.
Okay, that is an example. When you bring that text to naturalreader.com, that is an online tools to record the text and read the text. So there are a lot of language available there. It's English. It can be also in German, in Netherlands. So you can select the language. You can select either you want to use the British accent or the American English, or you can even select who's going to read the text for you. It's like the female voice or the male voice. And that is also a good thing to do that and send it to students to listen how this text is read, because it is very important to provide modeling beginning for the student how they read the English text and produce a good pronunciation, for example, like the teacher like to do in the classroom. But they can do this job, the same job, online. So another thing I loved also when Shannon talked about voice typing using Google Doc. That is also a good tools that the teachers can use that tool for the student to record their voice when they are reading the text. Because using Google voice typing tools in Google Docs, student can read the text and the tools dictate all the words coming out from the students. When they read the text, Google tools can record or detect all the text, all the words or phrase, sentence while students are reading them. So this can be used either using the laptop or mobile phone. So this is for an example, like when I try, this is the voice typing voice, like Shannon talked about in her presentations. So it's like you go to Google Doc, go to tools, and this is the voice typing. But when students use the mobile phone, then they have to download the Google Doc, and they open the Google Doc using the mobile phone, and they will see this is the voice, this is the icon here. They click on the icon and they start read the text using the text that the teacher provides. When they read the text, so the Google tool, the tools record or dictate every single word coming out from the student mouth. And that is a good things to do, because then the teachers can see whether the student produce a correct pronunciation when they read the text or not. This will be recorded by Google by this tool, and they can send it in the form of the text to teachers as an evidence that they already read the text. They compare the text that they read and the original one provided by the student if there are any differences. But if there's no differences, then they are sure that they read well. That is another thing that teachers can do also to assess students' reading skill, especially when it comes to reading the text, for example, because teachers like to do that in the classroom, and it can be helped by using this tool too. Okay, next we move to listening. This is still about receptive skill. We use voice memo recorder because we are looking for some practicality, some tools that can help teachers. So we can use voice memo recorder to record conversation, presentation from media outlets. For example, from YouTube, there's a lot of video conversation in YouTube that the teachers can record that conversation, for example. And they record the conversations and create a listening activity and send it to students. So this is an example in case that the teacher use WhatsApp as a platform, because many teachers use WhatsApp, especially in Ambon here, as a platform to deliver their learning material to students. So then they send the listening text and then some activities that come after the listening for the student. So this is an example that I record from the video, YouTube video, And then using this record memo to record this conversation. Let's listen. So this is an example, and this is listening. This is a conversation in the restaurant, and the listening activity that teacher can create from this conversation is like some questions like, where does the conversation take place? Because this is not the audio. This is not the audio visual. This is just audio. So then the student can guess the context. For example, where the conversation take place, who are the speaker, what are the relationship, what are they talking about? So those sort of main questions that can help students to identify the context, the relationship when it comes to listening activity in the classroom. So still you can have some technique, some strategy to cope with the problem, to maintain your teaching and learning activity, to keep going as you used to do in the classroom, for example. So this is a little digress from the main point that I addressed before. I use like add puzzles to create listening activity. This is just an example to create listening activity. So if you go to add puzzles, you can create a class, and there is a lot of video that you can select from the Tech Talk, from the YouTube, and you can use that video to create listening activity. So this is an example of the listening activity that I create using the Add Puzzles platform. So you see that the green dot here is the questions that I create. So when students listen to the video, and then when it comes to the green spot or the question pop up, and the student have to respond to the question, they submit, and then it continue. But it's just an idea of how I use the Add Puzzle. I extend this activity. It's not only for listening, it's not only for listening, but you can also extend this activity to video presentation, to presentation, like something that I create here with my student last semester. They watch the video, they respond to the questions, but then they also have to do a presentation based on the content of the video. This is one way to check their comprehension, listening comprehension. So this is just an example that I create with my student last semester. For example, like I provide some guided question for them. For example, like content of the video, who is the speaker, the value or knowledge they gain from the presentation, for example, from the video or from the story, language expression problem they share with the other student in that group. So that is an example when I use Add Puzzles for listening activity, but I also extend that activity to presentation. It's like a connecting listening, receptive to productive, or listening to speaking. It can be done that way. And this is the example of, excuse me, this is an example video from my students' presentations. Okay, so this is the presentations based on the content of the video provided in Add Puzzles. All right, now let's move to the next. Back to my main point. This is just a short digression from my main point as an alternative. Okay, let's back to voice memo recorder. Okay, now we already talk about how we can use voice memo recorder for reading. Now we move to for listening, and now we move to speaking practice in the classroom. So we can use voice memo recorder to record conversation or interview outside the classroom. So like in school, teacher, you have a short dialogue. So teacher at the beginning read the dialogue with the students, and then a little discussions about the dialogue, and then it comes that the teacher have the student to create their own dialogue based on the discussion, for example. Now, then they can use voice memo recorder for this online learning to record the dialogue. So a good thing is that, like, one student, for example here, okay, perform as Dito, and then record his part, send it to his partner in a small group, for example, and then one perform as Dita, and it will be look like this when it come to WhatsApp media. When they use WhatsApp, and it's come like this. This is Dito, this is, for example, Chita, and again Dito, and again Chita. So the teachers can be there also to check if the student participation in the speaking practice or in any conversations. So they can also record interview, for example, like, tell me about your experience of joining debate club, for example. And then they start talking about their experience, they record it, and they send it to teacher. That is a very simple way of doing it when we come to thinking about how we solve the problems here. So that is a very simple one when we use voice memo record for speaking practice. So now it's come to writing activity. Now we move WhatsApp or messengers or WhatsApp. So this is how we can create writing activity using text messaging features available in WhatsApp, for example. So here is the activity. Use text messenger for circular writing activity. So circular writing is where students create a story together by contributing one text message at a time. So each student write a sentence or two, and then send it on the and then send this on to the next students. So we know that it creates fun. When it comes to writing, we know that students sometimes don't like writing, but using this text messaging, it can create fun for create a fun or enjoyable situation, atmosphere for the students, right? When we think that if we consider writing as any form of textual communications, then we know that students can actually write a lot. So this is an example of circular writing, right? When the student create a short story. For example, like one student start with a short story, short narrative story, for example. Start the story by writing, once upon a time in the faraway forest lived a giant, for example. And then the next students will be continue by posting, adding to the story, one day, the next day, and so on until it becomes a complete piece of story. And the teachers are there. When they send it through the WhatsApp, teachers are there too. Teachers can see who contribute to the story, who are not in that small group. And that is also a good thing to do. So this is an example. For example here, where that this is created by the student, university student here. So it's like they start with COVID-19 protocol for society. We must, when you go out shopping, working, or go out to any public place, that is one student start with this. And then the next student come with, not only we have to wear the face mask, but we also have to wash our hand frequently, etc. And then another student, the next student will also contribute to the protocol, COVID-19 protocol, and then another student will contribute to this until it becomes a nice piece of COVID-19 protocol for society. for example. So teachers are there, teacher can see who contribute, who is not. So that is a very simple thing when it comes to circular writing using text messaging features that are available in WhatsApp. Another activity, this is for the junior high school student, like they are mainly deal with daily activity, talking about daily activity. So that is also possibly done with the junior high school student. They have the mobile phone, they go to the WhatsApp, and they teacher create a circular writing, start from student A with about daily activity. So student A may say, I clean my bed, then drink 2 glasses of water, or I wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock. That is what the student do in their daily activity. So they contribute to this. So that is circular writing when we use text messaging features. So this is another activity when we use text messaging features for paid interactive writing. So it's like teacher split student in pairs and have these 2 pair exchange message. Use the text message feature in, for example, in WhatsApp. It still can do that. The teacher can do. So this is an example, like congratulations for being the first winner in storytelling competition, Google icon or emoji, you did well, etc., etc. So these are the text messaging features which teachers can employ to facilitate their teaching and learning activity with students. So this is still about using WhatsApp because everyone is like to focus, teacher use WhatsApp most of the time to interact with the student. But look at the emoji that the WhatsApp, that the text messaging have when we use WhatsApp. So we can create activity, very simple activity with the student to engage them. For example, this is vocabulary for brainstorming, for engage the student with the activity. I mean, before we start with the main activity. This is also good for vocabulary, brainstorming, or to engage the student. For example, like change emoji with words. So here, like orange, apple, eggplants, grapes, cucumber, and then teacher post this to student and they change the emoji with words. It's like they start typing, okay, orange, pine, apple, eggplant. That is a good starting before that is a good start, vocabulary, brainstorming, or engaging the student. So this is how when we start with the vocabulary, but the next thing here, this is just a very simple activity like rewrite the sentence, change emoji with word. This is when we put this emoji in the context. So the context is also very important here. So we have the vocabulary here, but make sure that we also have them in the context to understand this vocabulary. So this is just simple activity like rewrite the sentence, change emoji with word or phrase, for example, because it's also a good thing for student or for teacher to teach in the word in chunks, yeah, the language in chunks or in the phrase. It's a very good thing for student to accelerate their comprehension to accelerate the acquisition of the second language. So this is, for example, like my mother bought 4 apples in a fruit market. She made, let's say, a cup of apple juice. Okay, noun phrase. If you focus on the noun phrase, a cup of apple juice for me. I like to have apple juice and for my breakfast. This is, for example, simple, but then teachers can create a very interactive, nice activity with the students. It is authentic also. This is another example. I have a cup of coffee, etc. Change the emoji with action verb. For example, like this is an example. cut the avocado. Maybe the second one is like peel banana, slice the bread, etc. So this is the activity that teachers can create using the text messaging features in WhatsApp. Very nice. The one over down here is also very nice. Change emoji with word. This one like this, smiling, crying, thinking, etc., angry, etc. This is a good starting point to start the lesson with the student. Next, we talk about camera and video. Like as you in the mini survey, teacher use camera and video for the for facilitating the teaching and learning activity. But we look at the camera and video here as the assignment, speaking task or assignment for the students. Like very simple video vlogs, like student, young learner, they love making vlog. We can use what the student interests to create activity for them. So this is an example when they record, they make a video vlogs in English, of course.
Hello guys, it's me Willie, and welcome to my fabulous vlog. So guys, in this video, I would like to show you about our group's preparation for the inauguration day. So, and if you're curious about what are we going to practice, so just keep on watching. Oh, I'm on my way.
Okay, that is a video vlog. We can also use camera or video for another activity. So this is, I did with my student, the first semester student last year. It is some interview about social media. Let's have a look.
Hi, I am Rani. Today we are going around and see people what they think about social media. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Amalia. I am a student of Hello, my name is Stephanie and I'm a student of English Education Study Program.
Okay, so that is an example of how we can use camera and video to create activity or to have the student to do their speaking task, for example, because some teachers like to use the video and have the student to do their project or activity task. So next, okay, this is a very important one about mobile phone memory. Make sure that we use mobile phone memory to distribute listening or reading materials, because there's a lot of junk people going to send that can take over the part of the memory card. So we make sure as the teachers that it is very important also to pay attention on the memory. So as we see that smartphone has memory capacity for graphic, photo, music, video that teachers can use, and to download listening materials, audio books, and other resources. So this can be downloaded in a variety of formats. So make sure that this memory, the capacity of the mobile phone memory, we use it for storing the resource that we're going to use with the student. Or otherwise, we're going to have getting stuck when we come to download, or because there's also materials or other resources from different people, different groups that we are involved in sending the material that we might not use for teaching and learning. So this mobile phone memory is also one thing that we need to pay attention to. Okay, now let's move to social media. So this time I'm going to talk a little bit about the Facebook, because maybe this is all things, all stuff. I think that people already, some teachers already use Facebook with a student, but let's just revisit Facebook and see what we can do with this social media platform. So we can create or have the student to create bio profile. So they profile, so like Facebook provide profile, everyone need to create the profile using the Facebook platform. This is authentic. This is something that we need to do so students can start using practice using the English to say something about the biography related to themselves. So this is also a good thing that the teacher can direct the student to use the Facebook to create the biography in English. Okay, we can also use Facebook for status update, read and write comment. Here, this is deal with writing. Teacher can ask students to create virtual photo album, contain series of pictures about their own field experience with descriptions in English in their Facebook. So this is, for example, like I have a series of pictures and say something about this picture and have the other student to provide comment on this picture. So that is also a nice platform that we can use to improve English, especially when it comes to writing. Oh, there's a lot of activity. Another activity is also teacher can ask students to write about their favorite athlete or artist without referring to any persons by name. And other fellow students read the post and attempt to identify the individual artist based on the given descriptions. Or they can provide a comment because students can also like send the video of artist performance, like music video of a performance, and student provide a comment on the performance. That is also another thing. Like what people normally do when they watch the video, or for example, American Got Talent, British Got Talent, and there's one artist perform on the stage and listen to the music and provide the comment. This can also be done in the Facebook platform. And it's just very interesting, very authentic. That is what we encounter in our social life. Another thing, this is still related to WhatsApp and Facebook. It's about readlang.com. So this is another resource that teachers can go to readlang.com. It's a very nice, Shannon already shared some resources for us related to reading, but this is also something that is very nice for teachers to go and look at, the readlang.com. So in this readlang.com, here there is a audio visual material. So it's provide some videos. It's about the fiction or non-fiction story. You can select the video, but a good thing is that students watch the video and there is a text down the video, and the text can provide, students have the opportunity to click on the text and it gives the meaning of the words. That is a very good one. For example, here, so this is an example, like you go to the readlang, student listen to the video in English, of course, to the story in English, and down there, there's a text. When the story goes, the text goes along with the story, right? And then student can click on words or phrase to find the meaning. So this is an example. When I click to the words, it provides the meaning. So that's good. It's already provide the meaning to students while they listen and follow the story. And that's a good thing for the teachers to go, because you have audio visual materials, audio visual, but then you have the text, and the text can help you to identify the meaning of the English word. So that is a very good thing for the teachers to do. So that is readlang.com. You go there, there's a library, there are hundreds of video, fiction, non-fiction. You have the word list, for example. Let me make it closer a little bit. Like this, you have the word list, flashcard is there. So this is public text, this public text. This is where the video, list of video coming up on this. And there is a website. This website, when you go to this website, it provides you with news in English for your students. So if you go to the public text, this is for example, like I go to the public text, you have the selections here, fictions, non-fiction. You have also about the songs, conversation, and other. A good thing is that it provides the meaning. It's not only about audiovisual, listening to the story, but you can read, it can also provide the text and the meaning. So, but then you need to check up here. For example, like Indonesian is my native, and you go to select the English as your target language. It's available in English. So there are some languages. So for the same materials, provide in different languages. So the thing is that you need to select your, like you are native language, like you know Indonesian, I'm learning English, like English is my target language, then it goes that way. So that is a very good resource for the teachers. So the next. So for example, like excuse me, I'm going back. Okay, sorry, I'm going back to this, to the slide. So a good thing about the read length here is that you can share the link to Facebook. This is how, when it goes to Facebook like this, or you can either share the link to WhatsApp, if teachers use WhatsApp as the platform for teaching and learning. You can also share the link to WhatsApp, and student goes to the link from the link that you send them, you send it to them through the WhatsApp. Or you can also share to Facebook down here. So that is a possibility that you can share this link or this material with the student. It's like you can select the material. When you select the material, you send this material or share it with the Facebook in case that you use Facebook as a platform for teaching and learning, or you can also send it through WhatsApp if you use WhatsApp as a platform. So that is the good things about using Readland, that you can share using this platform. So suppose that you have the student to listen. The student already listened to the story. There is a text and some difficult word. They can click on this difficult word to find the meaning. It provides the meaning in their own language. So it's no problem at all. You can go to single word here, or you can go to phrase, or you can go to like a chunk. That is a very good thing to have the student to focus on chunks. Like instead of window, or poor, go to poor window, which is very good to learn the English phrase like that, language in chunks. So in case that they have done such things like this, what will be the next activity? If you give this activity to students, they listen to the story, it's had the text, the meaning is already provided, what will be the next activity? So the next activity I would like to suggest, this is what I like, is storytelling. In order to enable your student to tell the story, it is very important also to provide them with some guidance. So this is like the chart, for example, like mind map, storytelling map that you can provide to students in order to enable them to retell the story. So that's the thing. This is an example like what my student did last semester, my first year's student.
Hello guys,
Okay. So that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for participating in my presentations. I hope you like it and it can contribute something to your teaching ideas. So thank you very much. Back to moderator. Sorry, before I leave, this is my presentation slide. You can go to this link to get my presentation slide. Thank you. Back to the moderator.
Thank you, Pahen. That was really good. And I like the Facebook because everybody loves Facebook. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the presentation. And we have more questions coming in. One is for you, Pahen. It's from Hanung Triyoko. He was asking, what do you do with those apps to allow your students to work collaboratively in their learning?
To work collaboratively in learning.
Yes.
Basically, I mainly use WhatsApp to interact with the student, but this is the idea that I provide to some teachers, because last semester I saw many teachers, they rely heavily on using WhatsApp to facilitate the teaching and learning. So I was thinking about how can I help the teachers that it can be more interactive, that the teaching and learning can be more creative when it comes to using WhatsApp as a platform. So that is what I come up. It's mainly for the teachers. And a good thing is that WhatsApp, you can create group, like the whole class group there, and then you can also create small group. So a good, I would like to suggest for the teachers who use WhatsApp as a platform to deliver the teaching and learning, that they can use the whole class group that is only to provide the materials. But then they have like a small group is when students working on the task, for example. So the task is go to the whole class group, but when it comes to work on the task, teacher creates small group, but teacher should be there in the small group so that they can monitor who's working on who's working on what, who is working on what. It's like make sure that each student contribute to the activities. For example, like in circular writing, there's a group, small group of the teacher create using WhatsApp, where this group can start do these activities. Circular writing, start from posting like once upon a time in a faraway forest live, and then another student contribute, but teachers should be there too in order to see who contribute to this activity, collaborates, and then teacher can, you know, control the class. So that is what I mean. If it is a pair, teacher can create pair group for pair activities. So that is how it works. But last semester with my student, because it's university student, so I mainly use Canvas platform as a asynchronous model of learning. So I combine with, sometimes I use WhatsApp to communicate, to interact with the student in case that they have problems. And sometimes I use Zoom for synchronous model. But I use Canvas as a synchronous model of learning. I use Canvas platform. So it's a good thing. I'm happy that I can, I know how to develop and create activity using Canva. So I'm happy with that. So that I have that skill, right? Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Pahen, for the suggestions. And I think we move on to the Q&A session because we have more questions coming in. Speaking of synchronous online classroom, we have one question about it, and it's for Dr. McCrocklin. All right. So this is from Christian Adiputra. He was asking how to keep students engaged before, during, and after the online synchronous session, how to make online discussion not frightening for students. So what's your tips for that?
Oh,
I think
gosh.
it applies for both of you from each context, because you're from the US and then Pahen from Indonesia. I think it might be different situation. So who's gonna start first?
I'll give it a shot. I'm gonna
Okay,
hope that
okay.
Dr. Maruanaya has some amazing insight
Okay.
to lend after me. In terms of keeping students engaged, my only real suggestion is to try to make sure that they know that the work that they're doing online isn't just going out into the void. I feel like a lot of students initially find online resources to be a lot of fun, but once they start to get disconnected and they feel like they're never talking to their teacher, they're never talking to their classmates, that's when I tend to see some of the disengagement that's really problematic. So I like to make sure that when I'm teaching now, I'm using Zoom so they can talk to me all the time, and making sure that I'm giving feedback regularly on their work so that they know it's not just existing, but it's meant to be a form of communication with someone. Dr. Maruanaya.
Well, I think it is, I mean, if we talking about online teaching, right? We have two platforms here. The one that we use as a synchronous model, and the other one that we use as an asynchronous model. So to engage the student is normally we use synchronous model to engage the student. Zoom is a good thing to start to engage the student. So everything that deal with what the student are going to learn asynchronously, we deal in a synchronous meeting, synchronous model. That is what we use Zoom. We use Zoom, then we come to think about what is it, why do we use Zoom? What is it the Zoom is for? Is this for clarifications? Is it for explanation, clarification, check if the student have any problems, for example. So that is what we use the synchronous model. This is similar like we do in the classroom. Like we do in the classroom is to check if there any problem, it's the student encounter with the activity or with the task, or we can also use synchronous model, Zoom, for presentation, checking student understanding of the material or the project that they are assigned to do. So I think that is and you know that you can still start with some nice thing to engage the students. We love, it's always advisable to provide some brainstorming nice thing that you can start have your student pay attention on you. So that is a very important things to think about. So that's it.
All right, great. We have another question related to your presentation, Pahen. They ask about how the teacher can assess students' learning process by using WhatsApp, and how WhatsApp can facilitate autonomous learning.
Is it for me, Aisha?
Yes. It's
okay. My presentation provides you a lot of evidence. That is how teachers assess the students. I mean, listening, for example, this is for example, if teacher use WhatsApp, WhatsApp can be a forum of portfolio. You see, you can create a small group and then you can create activity in small group and students go to the small group for provide, to do their tasks like reading, practice, or that is a kind of the evidence that the teachers have. So that evidence can help the teacher to assess or to diagnose their students' progress with learning. For example, like when I talk about Shannon also talk about voice typing, right? I talking also about voice typing from different point of view. It's like, it can be a good evidence, like teacher want us to check if the student can read well or not, and voice typing can provide the evidence for the teacher. is go directly to there. They can see, oh, okay, they compare the original with what the student produced using the voice typing. That's good. So that is the evidence for the teachers already, at least, that there is no mistake, the voice. You see, it's directly there for the teacher to assess, for example. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pa. Do you have something to say, Dr. McCrocklin?
Gosh, I wish I had some super insightful answers. But I did like the fact that you were talking about feedback as being a big part of autonomous learning, and anything that you can do to help students get feedback so that they can practice on their own, that's going to be kind of key to getting them away from being dependent on a teacher for feedback. So yeah, voice typing is one of my favorite tools. I'm glad we both mentioned it because students can get so much feedback from it.
All right, okay. And then this question goes to both of you. So the participant would like you to share your opinion, like the ideal duration of virtual classroom in EFL and how it affects students' attitude and learning achievement. What's your opinion on this?
Can you maybe repeat the question? I'm so sorry, Eugenie.
So they asked about what is the ideal duration in teaching EFL online and how it affects learners' attitude and learning achievements in your experience.
Oh, Dr. Maruanaya, do you want to start with this one?
Well, this is, we need to create the rule, and we need to stick on the rule first. Teachers need to create the rule, how to interact, because when it comes to online learning, so there are 3 aspects that we need to focus on to pay attention. These 3 aspects are the interaction between student and teachers, or student and facilitator, for example, student, as well as student and the content. So these 3 elements have to be appear in online learning, and we have to create this situation as good as possible, that we need to make sure that students interact with the teachers or the lecturers. Students also interact with between them, with the student, but this interaction between student and the lecturer, student and the student should be focused, should be contribute when it comes to the interaction with the content. Okay. So this should support, because that is what we want. So we need to create rules a little bit, make sure that they have to participate, make sure that they have to build an interactions, because when we're talking about constructive view of learning, that is how we develop the knowledge is developed through interactions, right? Through communicating with one another, yeah, group work. So that is what we need to focus on that. So, and students have to develop their interactions, the communication with the lecturers. They have to also develop the communication or interaction with the student, no matter what platform they use. Yeah, but we need to make sure that when it comes to interactions, teachers, we need to should be there also with the student. When student asks something or they say their opinion, we have to provide feedback. So that is a very important that we can maintain this interaction, because this interaction will be very important when it comes to the interaction with the content that we design for them to do online. So, so that is and the rules. Sometimes we talk about netiquette. You know, netiquette is how we interact online with one another. We need to follow the rules, like the language we use. How do we use the language? You know, when we interact with the peers, what sort of language that we need to use, and it's all sort of things we need to communicate with the students before engaging them or inviting them for discussion online. So this is a very important. Netiquette is very important. And I always put this on the top on the first before go down to the other. So this is the rule, netiquette, how you interact online. So you need to follow this rule, right? It's like discussions, even when students want to participate, involved in the discussion, they have to read, they have to make sure that somebody already talked about this item or this thing, and they don't need necessarily to repeat again and again. And how and show appreciation, sort of things. I mean, this is I always give it before on top. That's what I think. Maybe Shannon is going to add something.
I liked the idea of setting up expectations and rules. What I kept thinking about, though, in response to this question, in terms of this idea of an ideal duration, was that we often think of online teaching as something completely distinct, I think, from what we do face to face. But I think a lot of the same principles really apply. So you don't want necessarily to go in and just lecture to a class for an hour. They're going to probably start to zone out. And where are they practicing their English, right? The harder thing, I think, with online is that it's harder to switch activities sometimes. So in class, you might lecture 10 minutes and then have them do an activity. And then maybe you talk again for 5 minutes and then you have them do an activity. That interaction can be a lot harder to navigate online. And so I think a lot of teachers are tempted to turn into like longer lectures and maybe one activity. And I think that can be really disengaging for students. So it's really the same things that we do face to face, but adapting them, finding ways to adapt that to the online setting.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you. That was very good. And the next question is a little bit about you have more questions.
The last one, Adrian.
So this is about teachers' concern relating to the current pandemic, and also you know, how Indonesia is developing its infrastructure and everything. So the participant would like to know what and how should teacher do to teach students with limited access and use of technology, especially those in remote areas of the country. Like, do you have any ideas that you can share with these teachers just to help them?
I have one idea while you think about it.
Yeah. It's what we normally practice is that it depends. If, for example, like I use Canva platform and all my material is there in that platform. Because normally I suggest the student go to Canva, download all the materials, all the questions, and do it offline. Yep. And then they need to type on this word, make sure that it's complete, and then back again to that Canva, for example, and post it. That's simple as that. Don't work online because it's going to create. They're going to get a lot of difficulties related with the bandwidth, especially when they have problem with the connection bandwidth. So the only idea is that download the materials, whatever platform the teacher use, download the material and work offline. All the questions, they do it offline, and then come back just to post the assignment or the activity. That's it.
Very practical one. Go ahead, Dr. McCrocklin.
Sorry. Following up on that, I would also mention deadlines are really important for students that are, you know, working offline, because you don't want to try to post something like the day before something's due. And I often have students panic that are like, when I put something online, is this due? Is this happening right now? And I'm like, I would never do that to you. I always want to give students time to find material, to do the work. And when you're dealing with students that have to work offline, you need even more warning that like an assignment's coming up and that giving them time to download and do that work.
Yes.
All
Okay,
right.
that's all. That's the final.
Okay. This is the very last one. I promise. This is the last
Okay.
one. This is about the resource. So I don't know what's the name. So for Dr. McCrocklin, can you suggest level-specific tools, such as websites for IELTS or TOEFL or language learning for adults or children? You have any resource for that?
I'm sorry, one more time. Can you give me the
So
question?
they are asking if you could provide them with the level-specific tools for teaching language, such as for IELTS, TOEFL, or English for adults, teaching English for children.
I mean, most of the leveled stuff that I really use most is the things that I showed off during the presentation, like podcasts in English and the listening lab, and all of that is already leveled for you. And I level some of my own readings. So I showed you Longman's vocab checker. One possibility is to then edit readings that have words that are outside of the range and bring them within the high frequency words so that it's easier for students. But I'll have to think about it. If I can think of anything, I'll add it to the chat that has really great leveling.
All right. Or you can send us email of the links, then we can share to all participants because we're running out of time. So yeah.
No problem.
All right. Well, I think that's the last questions. There are some other questions, but they are related to the question we have discussed and you have answered. So yeah, and we're almost done with the webinar. But before we end or close this session, I would like to invite both speakers to give the participant the main takeaways from this webinar. So who's gonna start first? Pahen or Dr. McCrocklin?
Maybe Shannon start first.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that I was going to have to like give the main takeaways thing. I can do this. I guess the main takeaway that I would want to emphasize is that there are tons of tools out there that can help you. And there's not really a way to go wrong with a lot of tools. And one thing I probably should have mentioned somewhere is I love tools that students can always use the undo button on because it helps them feel more comfortable. But almost all tools, especially websites, it's hard to go wrong with them. And so it's really just a matter of exploration and finding the things that you think will work for your students and then saving them and integrating those into your classes. So don't be too scared of all the options out there. It's really fun to get exploring all the tools.
All right, Pahen?
Yeah, Eugene, I think be innovative and creative. Yeah, Shannon already talked about a lot of tools out there for us to use, but then we need to have a skill. We need to assess the ones that we need that suit the learner. That is what the tip provided by Shannon at the beginning, right? That should the learner think also from the practicality point of view of using this tool, so that everything that we use can benefit the student. We always to think about from the student point of view. Yeah, if it can be and meaning focus as well. So that's all I think from me. Thank you, Jen.
All right, thank you, Pahen. And yeah, everyone, that's all for today's webinar. And I hope that you can take some benefits out of it. I'm sorry. Okay. You can take benefits out of it and apply it in your classroom and in your teaching. But before we close this webinar, I would like to remind you that we have 2 more workshops coming up next week. And it's about online learning as well. The first one is modern language learning, and also the second one about e-learning or homeschooling. So I really wish that you could attend that because it can be useful for both teachers and education practitioners. Yeah, I think that's all from me. So I hand it over to Ibu Jenny. Ibu Jenny? Okay, she's not here. Oh my gosh.
Okay, thank you very much, all the participants, and thank you very much also for Dr. Shannon and Dr. Hendrik for your valuable, interesting topics and contribution in this webinar. For all the participants, thank you for coming. We still have 2 more webinars, as Eugene has mentioned. Okay, we will share the link for you. And I guess for me, to all participants, see you in the next webinar. And for the presenters, Dr. Shannon and Dr. Hendrik, Eugene, Ibu Mary, we will have photo session for our
All right.
webinar. Okay.
I'll
Ellie?
screenshot it from here.
Okay, Ellie will screenshot it.
Okay, now
Okay.
pose.
Pose. Bye.
1, 2, 3. Okay. Another one.
Okay,
another
one more.
1, 2, 3. Okay, done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Eugene, can you help answer the questions? Some participants are asking
Which
about
one?
the
Attendance link?
attendance link.
We have collected the attendance, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sticking around
Good
with
night,
us.
Dr. Shannon.
Thank you, Dr.
We'll
McCrocklin.
keep you in touch
Thank you,
via
Dr.
email.
Shannon.
Bye.
Terima
Thank you,
kasih.
Faham.
Yeah, thank you. Magic.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Shannon, thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Eugene.
Shannon, for sharing your idea with us. Jed, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.